Cloning tools. In current version we have 6 clone tools. Most of them can duplicate not just geometry or selected geometry from the viewport, but also they can duplicate also objects from shape library. So almost each tool has the source parameter in the numeric panel where we can choose between cloning scene object or 1D library, 2D library, or 3D library object. I'll start with a vector clone. Vector clone tool will duplicate objects from scene, selected object, or objects from shape library along this vector, and it has two basic modes: segment mode and full mode. In segment mode, the vector is distance between first and second clone. In full mode, the vector is distance between first and last clone. We can change number of clones directly in a numeric viewport with these green buttons, or we can define them directly in numeric panel. Here gap option is a distance between clones. So if I put here 0 value, then there is no space between clones. We can also change offset directly in a numeric viewport, and we can adjust distance of the first and last point of the cloning vector. We can also show distance, not show distance. There is one additional very neat feature in vector clone, and it is a fast mode option. In normal mode, when fast mode is disabled, then with each next step of cloning, all clones are duplicated. So we are always cloning with a number of counts to 2, it is number of clones are doubled. But in fast mode, we are always cloning only original source objects. So I can enable fast mode just by clicking on this fast OpenGeo button, and now we can populate this original object very quickly. This is useful, for example, if we need to put some trees or some objects into scene, and it should be not random, but it should be placed manually. So this fast way of cloning is very neat in some cases. Next is a RI clone. RI clone duplicates clones along the X, Y, and Z axis into RI cache. So when applied into viewport, we can change again number of clones along X and Y directly in the viewport, or we can change them to numeric panel. It has same two modes, segment and full. In the segment mode, the vector distance along X and Y and Z, X, Y, and Z defines the distance between first and second clone. In full mode, it is distance between first and last clone. We have here also the gap settings, so we can set distance between clones along the x-axis to 0, let's say, along y-axis also to 0 or different value. We can also set offset vector along x, y, and z axis, and there are special two drift options. So we can drift cloning along x-axis and also along y-axis. You can also show distance or not show distances in viewport. Array clone can be used also on existing polygons, so we can click into any polygon in perspective viewport with array clone, and it best works with shape library tree objects. So let's say I will pick this shingle, and we can switch on and switch off polygon cloning. So if polygon cloning is disabled, then it works as a regular array clone. When we enable polygon cloning with this green button, then shape presets are distributed along the surface of current polygon, and it is very useful, let's say, for these shingles. So we can set here 0 gaps, and we have very nice shingle roof from 3D shapes. Also useful is here this drift along x-axis options, where we can set 50% drift, and it works very well with all kind of shapes. Next cloning tool is a spray clone. We can spray existing object in a scene, or we can spray library 1D, library 2D, and 3D objects. We have two basic modes, absolute and per square unit mode. In absolute mode, we can set default absolute value of clones, let's say 10, and in per square unit, we just set density of number of clones per square unit. In this case, per square meter. So I will set a little bit higher density, so 50 clones per square meter. And we can set also random rotation, random scale. For random scale, there is minimum maximum scale value, and we can set center and radius values directly through numeric panel, or we can set them adjusting handles in a viewport. This tool also works in default. It works within this defined circle from center and radius, and it can also work on already existing objects. So we can clone on existing polygons or objects. When I apply the spray clone, it is best work with a 3D library. So when I click on this front polygon, in default it clones within the circle radius, but when we enable polygon mode, the clones are distributed on this selected polygon, and in object mode the clones will be distributed along the whole surface of object. Next cloning tool is a radial clone. With first click we define a pivot handle. With next second click we define a starting handle, and with the third click into scene we define angle handle. So it works similarly as previous cloning tools. So we have here segment and full mode. In segment, first and second clone is within the radius of 2. In full mode, we are cloning from first to last clone. We can set number of clones directly in viewport by clicking on these green buttons, or via numeric panel. We can set also angle and also depth of the cloning. So we can change the offset from the work plane. With 2D button, we are back in 2D mode, and there is no offset there. So we can clone the scene objects as well as 1D library objects, 2D library, and 3D library objects. We can also enable show radius and show angle dimensions directly in a viewport. Next cloning tool is a mirror tool. With mirror tool, we can create mirror objects from current scene object. This is a very simple tool. And the last one is a rail cone tool. With rail cone tool, we have to have some curve in the scene, which will be used as a cloning source. It can be in a primary or background layer, and if everything is in a primary layer, I have to select object which should be cloned, and just run the rail clone. I will select a source scene as a scene, so we start with cloning this scene object, and click on the curve. It is automatically set into origin, so we have to move it here, and we can set directly in the viewport which point of the source object should be a pivot, and we can move the source object which defines the offset from start of the cloning. We have several options for the cloning. We can set a number of clones, can set whether the cloning is oriented or not oriented, and we can also use as a source for cloning 1D, 2D, and 3D shape library. So we can switch between any shape we want. There is also a possibility that we can use just a section of this curve for cloning. So we can drag the starting point and end point of the cloning. I will put pivot back on the curve. So this is a very interactive way of cloning on a rail curve.